Welcome everyone to today's market recap. In every single one of these videos, we are all getting so much better. I can tell that as I'm making these videos, I'm seeing things I normally wouldn't see. Things are clicking that normally didn't click before, and I can tell that we are all making so much good progress. So, with that, let's talk about the market today. There's actually a lot of interesting things to talk about today, starting with the fact that at the beginning of the day, we got this move down. I was so confused. I'm like, where are we? Why are we going down? There's no key level here. And I was convinced there was no key level, but actually there was a 2 hour for value gap. And you can see that right here. It was very obvious. I just happened to miss it, unfortunately. So this is why you can't just check one time frame. You got to make sure you're checking all your time frames for your different key levels. You see, we perfectly filled this 2 hour for value gap. 2 hour for value gap. And then actually, at the lows here, and then as I say this, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is stupidly obvious and stupidly easy. How did I not see this? Well, it's hard to see in real time, but this is why we review the market, so we can get better, so we can see this in real time. We had S&T at these lows. So at that point, you could have known that this was going to be a buy model off these lows, right? You see S&T at the bottom of fair value gap, you just instantly got to know that's a buy model. So anyway, let's start with the first trade that I took of the day. We'll get into other people's trades as well. But first, let's talk about this trade. This was the first trade that I took, and it is using the new BPR model that I learned from Jan. Essentially, you enter at a BPR with your stop loss below the swing low, and in most cases, you just want to target a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1. I'm not sure if I got greedy here or if I genuinely was being smart, but I was simply targeting the 2 to 2.5 standard deviation. I thought that was reasonable. And so, anyway, if you don't know what a BPR is, go check out my most recent video on BPRs, but it is a area where a bearish fair value gap and a bullish fair value gap overlap and have no wicks on either side. So you can see that this area right here, this region that I selected, would be the BPR. So you'd enter here, and in most cases with these trades, you really just want to target the low-hanging fruit, just like a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1. But there were no highs here, so I was just wanting to target the standard deviations. I guess I could have targeted this, but I felt like the bias was so bullish, I felt like I could probably hit the 2 to 2.5, and this is where managing my greed should come into play. I should acknowledge that I need to take what I can get and get good, solid 1-to-1, 2-to-1 risk reward trades. And so if I had simply just gone for 2-to-1 here, you can see that this would have been a incredibly profitable trade, and I would have made money on this. But I actually ended up having this stop me out at break even. You can see I entered here, and I actually moved my stop loss to break even. And so another thing I'm learning about these BPR trades is you don't necessarily need to move your stop loss to break even if it's a really good BPR like this. Because in this case, this BPR can be respected multiple times. And I've noticed that happens a lot where BPRs can be respected multiple times. So if it's a high quality BPR like this, you don't need to necessarily move your stop loss to break even. Just take on the risk you're taking for the trade, set it for a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1, and then boom. That's amazing BPR trade. Almost caught it, but got stopped out at break even. Then next, let's talk about the next trade I took. So I'm not sure if this was out of me wanting to just get another long in, if I was trying to force something or not, but I did see this. So I saw a breaker block, so low, high, lower low, higher high. In reality, yes, this trade could have worked, but I think this is one where it's probably not high enough probability. You're already so far in premium. This was mostly just me just wanting to get something off after I got a break-even trade. So, but I will show you this trade. So we had that breaker block, and then we had a fair value gap right here. So these confluences together are the unicorn model. So going into more detail, you can see here this is a low. So any candle that has a wick is a low high, right? So low high, lower low, higher high. You see that? So that up close candle is the breaker block. Drag that over. Then as well you can take this one, or take this fair value gap, and these two confluences together are a buying point, right? And so enter, probably just enter at the breaker block, and I did do that, and I instantly got excited because, well, it went up. And this same thing here, right? Like, once again, if I just targeted a 2-to-1, entering anywhere in this range, if I just targeted a 2-to-1, this would have been an amazing profitable trade. All you need is a piece of the pie to make $400. Risking $200, this is a $400 move. You don't need to catch everything. I wanted to go target those standard deviations. I didn't need to do that. All you need is a piece of the pie, and you need to do it consistently. And that's all. So anyway, I should have just targeted for a 2-to-1. Or I should have simply just targeted this high or something. That probably would have made the most sense. So next time I get a setup like this, where it's like within the smaller price leg, I'm not going to try and shoot for something bigger. I'm just going to go like this, especially when at this point now I know we're bullish, but you have to be aware of the fact that there is a lot of lows beneath us, and we did come back and take those out. Then a trade that I missed that I wish I saw, and it's really, really obvious in hindsight, but it was hard to see in the moment, especially because the market was moving so fast, is this breaker block. So you have a high, low, higher high, lower low. So remember, any red candle is a high and a low all in one candle. So high, low, higher high, lower low. So this red candle, that's the breaker block. You drag that over. You can mark it out with the wicks or without. It doesn't matter. And then you take the red candle, mark it as your breaker block, and then you look for a fair value gap that is overlapping or really close to it, and you drag that over. Here in this case, this was that fair value gap, this gap between this high and this low, and you had that 2-minute fair value gap, and then I mark that out as my fair value gap. And usually with these trades, I just put my stop loss above the breaker because you can get some really good risk reward with doing that way. And here you could have targeted just this low, nice little scalp for 2.5-to-1. I mean, that's really, really great. You could have even targeted further lower if you wanted to. If you had conviction in shorts, I would not have, because I wasn't even trying to take shorts. I actually specifically said that I wasn't looking for shorts. But let's say you had conviction, like ERL to IRL play from these highs down. You knew we were going to go down to this fair value gap. I mean, that was reasonable, right? To think, okay, maybe we're going to go back to this 2-hour fair value gap if you wanted to take on that kind of risk. I personally just would have tried to do a 2-to-1. And I think that's one thing I'm learning about a lot of these trades. Just if you can shoot for these 2-to-1s, that's $400. So anyway, you can see how that went a lot farther. Then, like I said, we ended up getting this buy model down into this 2-hour fair value gap. And we ended up getting a trade from Hydra, which I took on demo. I had already taken all my trades on my eval accounts for the day. Otherwise, I would have taken this on an eval account, because this was probably better than the trades that I took on my eval accounts today. But essentially, you had a really, really nice, on the, I think it was the 2-minute, it was a 3-candle inversion. And those are the best inverse fair value gaps, when you get that happening in 3 candles. And so, anyway, here is that on the 2-minute. And you can actually see that we were also, not only were we within this buy model, so we were within a buy model with SMT at the lows, we get we get a BPR here. So we're delivering from a BPR. Sorry, that's not the BPR. Sorry, that might have been confusing. Where is it? Here it is. BPR is specifically this area right here. So see how there's no overlapping area right here? That's specifically the BPR. And so we're delivering from a BPR, and then we get this 2-minute inversion within this market maker buy model. So you enter here, and now Dodgy took this trade as well, and I actually disagree with what he said. So Dodgy took this trade, and he said that this was a break even for him. He said 1 break even. But why is he taking it on the lower time frame when there's such a good 2-minute candle close like this? I'm guessing he just didn't see it on the 2-minute, but this was a lot better on the 2-minute. And I wouldn't have moved stop to break even at least until this high, because I mean, we're within this buy model delivering from a BPR. We should at least go run this high. So for him to go to break even at this high is actually kind of crazy. I would not have done that. This is a higher conviction play, and so I would have simply targeted a 1-to-1, and that's what I did on my demo account. You can see here on my demo. Let me show you my demo account. Here we go. I said I'm the king of demo, I guess. I would have taken this on eval, but I already used up all my eval trades today. And you can see that there's that 2-minute inverse for value gap. It's beautiful. I just shoot for a 1-to-1, and that's all you need. You could have even shot for a 2-to-1, I'm pretty sure. And this actually would have hit. So a lot of time, if you just shoot for 1-to-1s or 2-to-1s off of these entry points, you can get really, really nice setups, and that's all you need to make $200 to $400 a day, especially if it's in the context of a higher time frame buy model like this. Anyway, let's continue. So I took a couple other trades. They were kind of bad, but I need to discuss them so that way we learn from our mistakes. I took a trade way early in the morning, and the volume was not here. There's not good price action to be trading in. I was simply, honestly, I don't know what I was thinking. This should have been a demo trade, right? But you can see, like, I had the idea, like, oh, I saw that this one worked. I was like, oh, this breaker block worked with this fair value gap. So I was like, okay, so the next one that happens is probably going to work too. And you can see how this would have worked, right? Stop loss below the breaker block, targeting the high. That'd be a 2-to-1. That'd be amazing, right? So you can see I was like, oh, the next one's going to work for sure. And so I just did this one. And this one's not even that good, because think about it. You want to use the highest up close candle. This one would have been the good breaker block to use. This one. Not this one. Anyway, I ended up using this one. I don't know what I was thinking. Sometimes I take the worst trades in the world, and you'll see that from me sometimes, and I am just trying to get better just like you guys. So, anyway, here's that breaker block. Here's this fair value gap here. Here's that fair value gap. And retraced into it, entered, immediately got stopped out. As well, you can see there's lower time frame, low resistance liquidity here. So I got completely wrecked right away. And you can see this actually would have been an inverse for value gap setup, I think, on the 1 minute. Yeah. 1 minute close below, and then we go run all this low resistance liquidity. So you could have even taken this as an inverse to the downside here, and you would have done better than me on this trade. So, unfortunate that I was kind of dumb here, but whatever. This would have to be a lot of contracts, but you could have taken this, where like this inversed. except I'm not exactly sure how you'd want to do that because it's just a weird situation. Your stop loss would have to be super tight. So anyway, then let's talk about this trade. So I took another breaker block for value gap trade, thinking that we were bearish, but I did not see that this was a buy model at the time. So we were in a buy model. We got that SMT at that 1 hour for 2 hour for value gap. At the time, I didn't even realize there was a 2 hour for value gap. So you guys, we all need to work together to spot these things because it's hard to see these things in real time. In hindsight, it's really obvious, right? You can easily see this is a buy model in hindsight. And you can see it in live time, but it's just you have to be on your feet and you have to be quick. And I didn't see this at the time. And I as well, like I've been saying, now is not the time to be bearish. It's all-time highs. The market's drawing higher. So I'm not wanting to be bearish. I don't really know what I was thinking here, but you can see we swept this high. We also swept this high. And then after we sweep these highs, we get a very aggressive move down. I see this as a breaker block here. And I see this as a giant fair value gap. So I essentially just entered when we got to like the midpoint of the breaker here. And as well, something else I'll note is I think a lot of time with these breaker setups, if the fair value gap's too big like this, well, I'm not entirely sure about that. That could be wrong, but I was gonna say if it's too big, then it's not as precise. But I think that it kind of just depends on the circumstance. But here, clearly, it was a bad idea because we were going against that 3-minute BPR. So you really think we're going to get through that BPR, and as well, we're in this buy model. It just doesn't make sense. This trade is completely bad, and although it looked like it was okay in the moment because we were sweeping these highs, and maybe we inverse this for value gap, I couldn't see that we were within this buy model at the time. It's hard to see in real time. So anyway, you can see I tried to enter here. Stop loss above the breaker. And yeah, instantly stopped out. So not a good trade, but hey, you just got to learn. So I think I'm just going to call it here. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.